You erased me from the story, so I made it public.
I'm Jake Brennan, 32, and I need to tell this story because I'm still trying to understand how my marriage fell apart over one photograph. Looking back now, maybe it was already broken and I just didn't want to see it. But let me walk you through everything that happened, because the truth turned out to be way more complicated than I ever imagined. It started on a cold December morning in Fort Collins. My wife Claire was packing for what she called a family reunion in Denver. The way she described it made it sound like the most boring weekend imaginable. Just her relatives sitting around, playing golf, swapping old stories. Nothing special. When I suggested coming along, she immediately shut that down. "You'd hate every minute of it, babe," she said without looking up from her phone. "Stay home, relax, have a guy's weekend or something." I trusted her completely because that's what you do when you're in love, right? You believe what they tell you. But that morning, little things kept nagging at me. I was standing by the coffee maker when she pulled out this garment bag from the back of our closet. Inside was this stunning turquoise silk gown, the kind of dress you wear to galas or fancy weddings. Definitely not something you'd wear to a casual family get-together. She held it up against herself, checking her reflection in the microwave door, and smiled this small, private smile I couldn't quite read. "That's quite the dress for a boring reunion," I said, trying to keep my tone light. She laughed it off quickly. "Oh, you know my mom. She always plans something fancier than she tells us about. Better to be prepared." Then she zipped the bag back up and hung it behind the door, like she didn't want me looking at it too long. Later, she asked me to help connect her phone to the car's Bluetooth for a playlist. When I took her phone, a notification flashed on the screen for just a second before disappearing. Rehearsal floor plan, Ryan and Madison. Ryan was her younger brother. Madison was his girlfriend. Rehearsal for what? But before I could ask, Claire had already taken the phone back and tucked it into her purse. "Thanks, honey," she said, kissing my cheek. I noticed the turquoise heels sitting in their box on her side of the dresser. I'd given them to her 2 years ago for our anniversary, and she'd never worn them once. Now suddenly they were coming out for this boring reunion. Something felt off, but I talked myself out of it. Maybe I was being paranoid. Maybe she just wanted to look nice for her family. I need to give you some context about Claire's family, the Sterlings, because understanding them is crucial to understanding what happened. They're Denver elite, old money, country club members, the works. Their house sits on a hill overlooking the whole city, all glass walls and marble floors and artwork that probably costs more than I'll make in 5 years. Every time I've been there, I felt like I was visiting a museum where I wasn't allowed to touch anything. Last Christmas really crystallized how they saw me. They hosted this elaborate dinner party with a theme. Everything had to be white and silver. The table stretched the entire length of their dining room, set with crystal glasses that probably cost a fortune each. When we arrived, Claire's mom, Patricia, guided me to a seat at the very far end of the table, right next to where the catering staff was coming in and out. "You'll be more comfortable here," she said with this smile that didn't reach her eyes. I told myself it didn't matter, it was just a seat. But as dinner went on, I realized the conversations happening at the other end of the table, where Patricia and Claire and the rest of the family sat, weren't meant for me to hear. They talked about stock portfolios, art auctions, trust funds, summer homes, and places I'd never been. At one point, Patricia looked down the table at me and said, loud enough for everyone to hear, "Jake has such a grounded energy. It's refreshing, really. A charming contrast to our usual crowd." The word contrast stuck in my throat like ice. Claire's cousin Vanessa laughed and said, "He looks more like a musician than a software engineer, doesn't he?" They all chuckled, and I laughed too, because what else was I supposed to do? Later, when we were leaving, Patricia squeezed Claire's shoulder and told her, "You two balance each other beautifully. You bring him polish, and he brings you simplicity." I pretended not to hear it, but those words haunted me the entire drive home. It wasn't just that one night either. There was a summer barbecue I never got invited to until I saw photos online. A group chat called Sterling Inner Circle that Claire claimed she forgot to add me to. Each time, I convinced myself it was nothing serious. Families have their dynamics, and some people just take longer to warm up. But underneath all that reasoning was this cold awareness that I would always be slightly outside their world, looking in through the glass. Claire had learned how to navigate their expectations perfectly. She knew when to stay quiet, when to smile, when to agree with her mother even if she disagreed privately. I used to admire that about her. Now I wonder if she learned those survival tactics to protect herself, and somewhere along the way, I became another thing she had to manage to keep the peace. After Claire left that Friday night, the house felt enormous and empty. I tried watching TV but couldn't focus. I kept thinking about that dress, those heels, the notification about a rehearsal. Around midnight, I texted my friend Sarah Chen, a photographer I've known since college. "You free tomorrow morning for an early mountain shoot? Need to clear my head." She responded almost immediately. 6 a.m., Rocky Mountain National Park. Bring warm socks and your camera. It'll be freezing. The next morning, Sarah and I drove up into the mountains while it was still dark. By the time we reached the park, dawn was just starting to break over the peaks, painting everything in shades of orange and pink and gold. The air was so cold it hurt to breathe. We spent hours hiking around frozen lakes, taking photos of the sunrise, the snow-covered pines, the way light moved across the landscape. For a while, I actually managed to forget about everything else. It was just us, the cold, and the camera clicking. Around mid-morning, we ducked into this small cafe in Estes Park to warm up. The place smelled like cinnamon and fresh coffee, and warmth hit my face like a wave when we walked in. We ordered drinks and sat by the window, going through the photos we'd taken, talking about composition and lighting and exposure. Normal stuff, safe stuff. Then Sarah went completely silent. She was scrolling through her phone, and her expression changed. This look of concern mixed with hesitation. She glanced up at me, then back at her screen, like she was trying to decide something. "Jake," she said slowly, "I think you need to see this." She turned her phone toward me, and my whole world tilted. It was a Facebook post from Helen Sterling, Claire's aunt who documented every family event like it was breaking news. The photo showed this massive ballroom decorated like something out of a magazine, crystal chandeliers hanging from the ceiling, tables draped in white linens with huge flower arrangements, people in formal evening wear holding champagne glasses. The caption read, "What a beautiful night celebrating Ryan and Madison's engagement. So grateful to have the whole family together." Unintended, right in the center of the photo was my wife. Claire was wearing that turquoise gown, holding a champagne flute, standing next to her brother Ryan with this huge, genuine smile on her face. The kind of smile I hadn't seen from her in months. Behind them was a stage with more flowers, a banner that said, "Ryan and Madison forever." Photographers moving through the crowd. This wasn't some last-minute thing her mom threw together. This was planned, elaborate, expensive. I scrolled down with hands that had started shaking. There were dozens more photos. The entire Sterling family dressed in designer clothes, laughing together, toasting the happy couple. Patricia in a floor-length gown that probably cost more than my car. Ryan and Madison kissing under falling rose petals. Claire hugging her cousins, all of them looking perfect under those chandeliers. Every single photo confirmed what I didn't want to believe. There was no boring family reunion. There never had been. This was her brother's engagement party, and I hadn't been invited. More than that, I hadn't even been told it was happening. My chest felt hollow, like something had been scooped out of it. The noise of the cafe faded to background static. Sarah was saying my name, but I couldn't hear her properly. I just kept staring at those photos, at my wife's face, at the family who'd once shaken my hand and welcomed me into their home, now celebrating together like I'd never existed. I tried calling Claire. Once, twice, 3 times. Every call went straight to voicemail. I sent a text. "I'm looking at the photos from last night. Please tell me why you lied to me." The message showed as delivered but never changed to read. She'd seen it and chosen not to respond. I opened the comment section under Helen's post. People were congratulating the family, saying how lovely the evening looked, how beautiful the venue was. Someone wrote, "So wonderful that the entire family could be there for this special night." Helen had reacted with a heart emoji. The entire family. Everyone except me. Sarah reached across the table trying to say something comforting, but I pulled back. I didn't want comfort. I wanted to understand how the woman I'd married could look me in the eyes, tell me she was going to a boring reunion, and then spend the evening at an elaborate engagement party without even mentioning it existed. What kind of person does that? I left the cafe and walked down to the frozen lake nearby. The air was thin and cold and sharp in my lungs. I stood there watching the wind push snow across the ice, trying to make sense of what I'd just learned. All the little signs I'd ignored suddenly made perfect sense. The fancy dress, the heels she'd never worn, the rehearsal notification on her phone. She'd been planning this lie for weeks, maybe longer, and I'd been so trusting, so naive, that I never questioned it. Sarah found me standing there and didn't say anything at first. She just pulled out her camera and took a photo of me against the snow and mountains, the morning light catching half my face while the other half stayed in shadow. "Keep this," she said quietly. "You might need it later." I didn't understand what she meant at the time. We ended up staying at a small lodge in the mountains that night. I couldn't bring myself to drive back to Fort Collins, back to that empty house that still smelled like her perfume, back to the life we'd built that suddenly felt like a set piece in someone else's play. I sat by the fireplace in the lodge, staring at my phone, at that photo Sarah had taken. I looked like a stranger to myself, someone who just realized something fundamental about his life had been a lie. Around 9 p.m., I opened my social media and looked at the photo again. Without really thinking it through, I typed a caption. Some reunions celebrate who's missing, not who's there. My thumb hovered over the post button for a long time. Part of me knew that once I pressed it, something would change forever. But another part of me, the part that was hurt and angry and tired of being treated like I didn't matter, wanted them to know I'd found out. Wanted them to know their perfect night wasn't as secret as they thought. So I pressed post. At first, nothing happened. A few likes from college friends, a couple of comments asking if I was okay, normal stuff. But by 10 p.m., something shifted. People started sharing it. Then more people shared it. Friends I hadn't talked to in years were commenting, asking what was going on. By 11 p.m., my phone was buzzing constantly with notifications. Someone had screenshotted my post and added their own caption. "Man discovers wife excluded him from family event, posts devastating photo." That version spread even faster. I turned my phone face down and tried to sleep on the couch in the lodge, but it was impossible. The phone kept vibrating against the wooden table, each buzz feeling like an accusation. By the time dawn came through the curtains, I had over 200 notifications. My post had gone fully viral. Sarah was already up, drinking coffee, and she looked at me with this cautious expression. "Jake, you should probably check your phone. This thing has really taken off." She wasn't wrong. My inbox was flooded. Missed calls, unread messages, friend requests from strangers, tags and posts I'd never seen. Someone had turned it into a think piece about class differences and how wealthy families exclude people they consider beneath them. Another post analyzed my photo and caption like it was art, talking about the symbolism of being half in shadow, half in light. The comments from strangers were overwhelming. "This is heartbreaking. Classic upper-class cruelty. He deserves so much better. His wife should be ashamed." Some people were sharing their own stories of being excluded by their partners' families. It had become bigger than just my marriage. People were projecting their own pain onto my situation. But what really made my stomach drop was when I found the video. Someone at the engagement party had been filming, and they'd caught the moment when someone showed Patricia my post on their phone. You could see her face change instantly. That perfectly composed smile freezing and cracking. She'd grabbed the phone, stared at the screen, and her expression went from shock to fury to something like panic. The party had apparently gotten very tense after that, with people whispering and checking their phones instead of celebrating. I'd accidentally ruined their perfect night from 90 miles away. Around noon, a message from Claire finally came through. "You're making me look bad. You're making us look bad. Take it down, please." No explanation, no apology, just damage control. I stared at those words for a long time before typing back, "You did that yourself when you lied to me. I just stopped keeping your secret." I didn't send anything else. Then came the anonymous email that changed everything. No sender name, just a subject line that said, "You should know." The message was brief but devastating. "She never told them she married you. The Sterling family has been presenting Claire as single for PR reasons. You've been erased from the family narrative since the beginning." I read it 3 times, my hands going cold. Suddenly, everything made sense. Why I was never in family photos they posted publicly. Why I wasn't invited to important events. Why Patricia always introduced me as Claire's friend from Colorado to her business associates. The Sterlings had built their empire on image, and I didn't fit that image. So they'd simply pretended I didn't exist. And Claire had gone along with it. Patricia left me a voicemail that evening, her voice measured and calm, like she was conducting a business negotiation. "Jake, this has gotten out of hand. We need to talk about taking that post down. Marina, Claire, she's falling apart over this. Her reputation is being damaged. The family's reputation is being damaged. We can work through this privately, but not if you continue airing our personal matters online. Please call me back so we can resolve this like adults. I deleted the voicemail before she finished. The audacity of her calling this our personal matters when they deliberately excluded me from family events made me want to laugh. They treated me like I was invisible for years, and now that I'd made my invisibility public, suddenly they wanted to work through this. Claire sent more messages throughout the day. My mother is crying. They think I can't control you. Everyone at the club is talking about us. Please, Jake, just take it down and we can figure this out. Still, no real apology. Still, no acknowledgement that she'd lied to me. Just concern about what other people thought. Then things got worse at work. A colleague called me on Monday morning. Hey, Jake, I don't know what's happening in your personal life, but one of our biggest clients is connected to the Sterling family. They're concerned about the attention this is getting. If the story keeps trending, they might pull their account. I'm not saying that's fair, but I wanted to give you a heads up. I thanked him and hung up, the irony cutting deep. I'd spent years working to build financial stability, and now the truth was threatening to destroy it all. When Sarah came by that afternoon, she was carrying a magazine folded open to a feature article. "You've officially gone viral," she said, handing it to me. The headline read, "A photo that divided class lines." Below it was my picture from the mountain, along with several paragraphs analyzing how my post had sparked a larger conversation about wealth, exclusion, and the way rich families protect their image. They'd quoted sociologists and relationship experts. My private heartbreak had somehow become a cultural moment. 2 days after the post went viral, I drove back to Fort Collins. The snow had gotten heavier, covering everything in thick white silence. Our house looked exactly the same from the outside, quiet, neat, unremarkable. But when I stepped inside, it felt like a stage set for a life that had never really been mine. The turquoise gown still hung on the back of our bedroom door, half unzipped, like evidence she'd left behind. I heard the front door open around sunset. Claire's heels clicked against the hardwood floor, then stopped in the hallway. When she appeared in the doorway, she looked exhausted in a way I'd never seen before. Her hair was pulled back tight, her eyes red and swollen, her designer coat wrapped around her like armor. "We need to talk," she said, her voice brittle. "Yeah," I replied, "we do." Tangled. She came into the room but didn't sit down, just stood there with her arms crossed. "You turned my family into a spectacle, Jake. Do you understand what you've done? My mother has reporters calling her office. Ryan and Madison are getting harassed online. Aunt Helen is being blamed for starting all of this. You've humiliated all of us." "No," I said, keeping my voice even. "I just stopped pretending everything was fine. Your family humiliated me by excluding me and then lying about it." "You don't understand," she said, and her voice cracked. "My mother has spent her entire life building the Sterling reputation. She just wanted everything to be perfect for Ryan's engagement. She thought if you came, it would—" She stopped, realizing what she was about to admit. "It would ruin everything," I finished for her quietly. That's what this was really about, wasn't it? I would ruin their perfect image. Her silence was answer enough. When she finally spoke again, her voice was barely above a whisper. She told everyone, "You were just someone I was dating casually." She asked me not to correct people. She said once Ryan's engagement was announced and the publicity died down, we could be more open about our marriage. She just needed this one night to go perfectly. "So she told everyone you were single?" I asked, even though I already knew the answer. "And you just went along with it?" Tears started falling down her face. I didn't want to fight with her, Jake. She was so happy about Ryan finally settling down, and I thought one night wouldn't matter. I thought you'd never have to know. "But I do know," I said, "and now everyone knows. Because that's what happens when you build your life on lies. Eventually, the truth finds its way out." She sank down onto the edge of the bed, crying openly now. "I never meant to hurt you. I was trying to protect you from their judgment. I thought if they saw how much I loved you at my brother's engagement, with all their friends there and the photographers, they'd say things that would hurt you worse. So instead, you just erased me," I said. "That was supposed to hurt less?" I picked up the turquoise heels from where they still sat in their box on the dresser. "You know what these represent to me now? Every time I thought we were building something real together, you were keeping me hidden like I was something to be ashamed of. You were living two different lives. The one where you're Patricia Sterling's accomplished daughter, and the one where you're married to a regular guy from Colorado who doesn't own a vacation house, or wear the right suits, or speak their language. That's not fair, she protested weakly. Isn't it? I asked. When's the last time you defended me to your mother? When's the last time you told her I deserved a seat at the main table? Or that excluding me from family events was wrong? You learned how to survive in their world by staying quiet and going along with whatever they wanted. Somewhere along the way, I became just another thing you had to manage to keep the peace. She didn't deny it. She just sat there crying, and I realized that all the love in the world can't fix a relationship where one person is constantly being made smaller to fit into someone else's life. I grabbed my coat from the chair. She looked up startled. Where are you going? Somewhere I don't have to apologize for existing, I said. You can keep the house, the stories, the family name, all of it. I'm keeping what's left of my dignity. I walked past her toward the door, and she called after me, Jake, please, don't do this. But I kept walking. At the front door, I turned back once. She was standing by the bedroom window, backlit by the lamp, looking small and lost. For just a second, I wanted to stay, to try to fix it, but then I remembered seeing her in that ballroom, smiling and laughing with her family, while I sat 90 miles away learning the truth, and I knew there was nothing left to fix. I got in my car and drove away, while snow fell thick around me, covering everything in white. In my rearview mirror, I could see the warm light from our windows growing smaller and smaller until it was just a glow in the distance. Then, nothing at all. A week later, I got a text from Claire. Mom wants to meet. We should end this properly, please. She gave me the address of the Regency Room, this upscale restaurant in Denver where the Sterlings held all their important dinners. The irony of meeting there in the heart of their territory wasn't lost on me. But I went anyway because I wanted closure. And maybe part of me wanted to see Patricia face to face after everything that had happened. I arrived at 7 p.m. The restaurant was dimly lit, filled with the quiet murmur of expensive conversations. A hostess led me to a private room in the back, the kind reserved for people who wanted to discuss business or family matters away from prying eyes. When I walked in, my stomach tightened. It wasn't just Claire and Patricia. The whole family was there. Patricia at the head of the table looking composed as ever, Claire beside her with her eyes fixed on her folded hands, Ryan sitting across from them looking uncomfortable, even Aunt Helen in the corner trying to stay invisible. The table was set with white flowers and crystal glasses, arranged just like the engagement party photos. They were sending a message. This was their space, their rules, their game to play. Jake, Patricia said, gesturing to the empty chair across from Claire. Thank you for coming. Please, sit. I sat down, and the silence that followed felt heavy enough to crush me. Finally, Patricia spoke, her voice measured and perfectly controlled. We're not here to argue or assign blame. We simply want to find a resolution that allows everyone to move forward with their lives intact. If you agree to delete the post and refrain from speaking to the media, we're prepared to offer you a settlement that will help you transition to your new life. This benefits everyone. You mean it protects your reputation, I said. She smiled tightly. Image is currency in our world, Jake. You've always struggled to understand that. What you see as honesty, we see as unnecessary exposure of private family matters. Angled private family matters? I repeated. Is that what you call lying to me about where my wife was going? Pretending she's single so your donors don't know she married beneath her station? Claire flinched, but didn't look up. Ryan shifted uncomfortably in his seat. Patricia continued as if I hadn't spoken. Claire made a mistake in judgment. She should have been more clear with you about the event, but your response was disproportionate and damaging. Surely you can see that. Before I could respond, a waiter entered with an envelope, placing it in front of Patricia. For the Sterling family, he said before leaving. Patricia reached for it, but I was faster. Inside was a receipt and thank you letter from the restaurant manager, praising the Sterling family for booking the entire venue for Ryan and Madison's engagement celebration and hoping to host future events. I slid it across the table toward Patricia. Booking the entire venue, that doesn't sound like a small, intimate family gathering. That sounds like something you'd been planning for months. So when exactly were you planning to tell me it was happening? Or was the plan always to keep me in the dark? Patricia's perfect composure cracked slightly. You're focusing on irrelevant details. No, I said. I'm focusing on the fact that you've been pretending I don't exist. and my wife went along with it because she was too scared to stand up to you." Ryan suddenly spoke up, his voice quiet but firm. "Mom, stop. This isn't right." He looked at me with something like guilt in his eyes. "I told them you should have been invited, Jake. Madison wanted you there too, but they said it would complicate things with the press and the sponsors. They said Claire could bring you to a family dinner later, after the public announcement was done." "Ryan, that's enough," Patricia said sharply. But Ryan kept going. "They asked Claire to keep you away, and she agreed because that's what she always does. Whatever Mom says." Claire finally looked up, tears streaming down her face. "I didn't know what else to do. You don't know what it's like, Jake. Disappointing her, going against what she wants. I've spent my whole life trying to be good enough for this family." "And where did I fit in that equation?" I asked quietly. "Was I ever going to be good enough? Or was I always just going to be the secret you kept hidden when it mattered?" No one answered. The silence stretched out until I pulled out my phone. "You know what? Helen sent me something interesting." I played the video I'd been holding on to, the one from the engagement party. The room filled with the sound of glasses clinking, laughter, celebration, and then Patricia's voice came through clearly. "It's such a relief that Claire managed to keep her husband away tonight. Can you imagine if he'd shown up in one of his casual jackets while the photographers were here?" People at the table laughed in the video, including Claire. I stopped the playback. The silence in the room was deafening. Claire had her hand over her mouth. Patricia had gone pale, and Ryan looked like he wanted to disappear through the floor. "You wanted everything perfect," I said, standing up now. "But perfection doesn't exist, Patricia. It's just a mask you wear until someone sees what's really underneath." Patricia recovered quickly, her voice cold. "You're making a mistake, Jake. In our world, discretion is valued. If you continue down this path of public humiliation, you'll find doors closing that you didn't even know were open." "Is that a threat?" I asked. "It's a reality," she said. "The Sterling name carries weight. We have connections you benefit from, whether you realize it or not. Your firm, your clients, your future prospects, many of them intersect with our sphere of influence." I looked at Claire. "Is this really the life you want? Where your mother threatens your husband to protect her image? Where you laugh along when she mocks me behind my back?" Claire's voice was barely a whisper. I didn't know she'd said that. "I wasn't there when—" "But you were there," I interrupted. "I heard you laugh in the video, Claire, right after your mother said it." She closed her eyes, and more tears fell. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." I picked up my coat. "You wanted silence, Patricia. You wanted me to quietly disappear so your perfect world could stay intact. But here's the thing about silence. It only protects the people who benefit from the lies. The truth might be messy and uncomfortable, but at least it's real." I walked toward the door, then turned back one more time. "You built your entire family on appearances, on looking perfect for the cameras while treating people like they're disposable if they don't fit the image. But eventually, someone was going to stop playing along. It just happened to be me." Condemned that, I caught my reflection in the hallway mirror. And for the first time in years, I didn't see someone trying to fit into a world that didn't want them. I saw someone who'd finally stopped apologizing for taking up space. I moved to Breckenridge a month later, took a freelance job with a local media company. They'd actually found me through the viral post. My tiny apartment had one window facing the mountains, and sunlight poured through every morning. It smelled like pine and new beginnings. Claire sent me a letter eventually. It was brief. Her mom was sick. Ryan had moved out, the family was falling apart. She said maybe that was fair, since they'd built their life on pretending. She hoped I was doing better than they were. I didn't respond. There was nothing left to say. Sarah called one day about a photo exhibition in the mountains, focused on truth and identity. They wanted to feature my photo from that day in the snow. I said yes. When I saw it displayed on a huge canvas with the caption, "Truth doesn't destroy, it exposes," I felt something shift inside me. A journalist at the exhibition told me the photo had reached people all over, becoming a message for anyone who'd been made to feel small for telling the truth. I hadn't meant to make a statement. I was just trying to survive. But maybe that's what truth is, a survival instinct that refuses to die. Aunt Helen emailed me too. She said the family had cut her off for sharing those photos, but she didn't regret it. "That night needed light," she wrote. "Thank you for giving it to them." I uploaded one more photo, a sunrise over the mountains where I now lived. The caption was simple. "The mountain doesn't lie. It just stands." Among the thousands of comments, one caught my eye. "It's beautiful, Jake. Thank you for teaching me to stand." It was signed Claire. I didn't reply. Some words don't need answers. They just need to exist. Now I'm here in my small apartment, looking out at the peaks where the snow is starting to melt under spring sunshine. I've learned that some losses you don't heal from. You just learn to carry the truth with you. The silence around me doesn't feel like a cage anymore. It feels like space. The world doesn't owe me an apology. It only owes me the chance to keep standing. And I'm finally doing that, one day at a time, with the morning light streaming through my window, warm and unbroken.